Hello, everybody. Welcome to Experiments in Poetry. This is your host, Wendy. Today, we will be talking about the band The Cure and their song, Lullaby. The Cure are one of my all-time favorite bands, and they are known for a darker kind of music and also maybe like the founders of gothic type of rock. Put on my best red lipstick in honor of The Cure's frontman, Robert Smith. He was known to rock a red lipstick in the early 80s or throughout the 80s and 90s. Although sometimes it was a little bit more messy and smeared than mine is today. But he had an amazing, unique presence during that time. When I was growing up, there was nobody who sung like him, no music quite like theirs, and I really, really appreciate it and love the band The Cure. So Robert Smith is the lead vocalist, the guitarist, and the main songwriter for the group. So the song Lullaby was released in 1989 off of the Disintegration album, which I think was the seventh studio album from The Cure. So the other members of the group were Simon Gallup on bass, and Roger O'Donnell on keyboards, and of course Robert Smith, who played lead guitar and was the vocalist. So the album Disintegration came out in 1989, and it was kind of a return to the darker side of the band, The Cure. A string of hits, the band became really famous and popular, and Robert Smith didn't quite know how to cope with the popularity and was going through some things and coping with the pain, had a little bit of depression, and was experimenting in some drug use. And so this album took a notable, more somber, melancholy, depressed kind of feel to it. Although there were some songs on the album, one of my favorite songs of all time, which is Love Song, which was a wedding present to his wife. And so he said he wanted to, so Robert Smith said he wanted to include his wedding present to his wife on this album to kind of mix it up. He wanted different types of songs that had different vibes so that the album would have some balance to it. But on the flip side of Lullaby, but on the flip side of Love Song, there is also songs such as Lullaby, which tell a horrifying tale of a spider-like creature that comes at night to eat Robert Smith alive. So it is quite scary. And terrifying, right? They say it has been reported that he suffers from arachnophobia, which is a fear of spiders. I have my little spider earrings on today, also in honor of this song. But he also sings Lullaby more in like a whispering, haunting way, which is different than his normal vocalizations, which is different from his normal vocals. I really think that Robert Smith is an amazing lyricist and songwriter, and it's quite poetic. But then when you combine that with his vocals, which are very haunting and angelic at the same time. Then when he um, and so when you put those two together, it's spectacularly beautiful. And this is why Disintegration is one of my favorite albums. In songs on the album, such as Love Song and Pictures of You, you can really see his great lyric writing, and it showcases his uh, voice very well. However, in this song, Lullaby, he delivers it as if he's uh, too afraid to use his voice, like he's whispering, uh, telling you his haunting tale, whispering it to you, lest he says the words too loudly that might bring the monster back. Thou shall not say his name, right? kind of like, you don't say its name, you might like conjure it up. So it's kind of like there's this creature that haunts me. It's um but it works in their home country of England, that the song Lullaby was their greatest hit. um don't think it did so well in the United States, but I love the song, and that's why I'm presenting it to you today. So let's get into the lyrics. If you haven't already, please go ahead and listen to the lyric video I made for Lullaby by The Cure. I will link it in the description below for you. So the song starts off with a quite lengthy musical intro, and it starts with him whispering. The lyrics first start with him whispering, "I spy with the corner of my little eye something beginning with S." And if you go and watch the music video that The Cure released for this song, um, you will see that he's kind of like shivering and covered up in bed, and he is looking around the room, and he sees the Spider-Man monster. Um, so, so the first verse goes, "On candy-striped legs, the Spider-Man comes softly through the shadow of the evening sun, stealing past the windows of the blissfully dead, looking for the victim shivering in bed, searching out fear in the gathering gloom, and suddenly a movement in the corner of the room. And there is nothing I can do when I realize with fright that the Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight." So I don't think that the lyrics are particularly complicated. He has just a very clean, straightforward way about his lyrics. I think that's why it has such universal appeal. I think that's why it has such universal appeal. Um, Everybody can understand exactly what he's saying, and I mean, I think it is like a metered rhyme, traditional poetry scheme. He has the first verse has, yeah. So when I look at that first verse, I like how it is so clean and clear. There's no mystery. It's kind of very straightforward, and it goes with the theme of Lullaby. Uh, Robert Smith has given several accounts of how or what his inspiration for this song was, and a lot of it has to do with either bedtime stories that were told to him as a child by his uncle, and then I heard another story that was possibly songs that his father used to sing to him when to put him to bed at night, that often were very, very scary, and were kind of like, if you don't go to bed tonight, you won't wake up. If you don't go to bed now, there will be no morning for you. And so it's kind of um, so based on things that happened to him as a child, or trying to lull a child to sleep. Look at the structure of the verse. It is very, very poetically written in a traditional sense. The first verse has uh, 8 lines, and it's written almost perfectly in iambic pentameter. I mean, some of the lines are a little bit longer, um, but it's definitely in an iambic meter, which is a unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, up, like this. And it makes it very melodic. And then he has in like a B B C C D D rhyming scheme with it, with almost perfect balance in the meter from line to line. So meaning that he has like you know 10 to 12 kind of syllables in each line, um, which makes about a pentameter, which would, because an iamb is two syllables stressed. So sorry, I'm trying to describe it. So an iambic pentameter, yeah, it definitely follows that flow. I don't know if he was doing it on purpose or not, but I wouldn't be surprised because, as I said, he um, is one of my favorite lyricists, and he has written so many really beautiful, poetic lyrics. And so I think he is quite talented if you just look at the lyrics themselves. So, with that said, so sorry, I'm getting messages and more messages. So, with that said, so I think that with the rhyming scheme and the meter structure that he is using, even in his lyrics to go along with the music, it is very, yeah, it's very melodic, and it is like a terrifying bedtime story. It's exactly like that. So he's saying, on candy striped legs, the Spider-Man comes softly through the shadow of the evening sun. So there, I look at like this creature that has, yeah, I saw a spider like this once. I really did, where it had like these big, juicy, it was a big spider. It was like the size of my hand. I don't know, but it was mostly leg. It just had like a little tiny body, and it was mostly leg, and the legs were like big and juicy, and they were white striped. They were black with white stripes. I have no idea what kind of spider this was. I saw it in Texas, so if anybody knows what kind of spider creature roams Texas, that is almost all big legs, tiny body with white stripes, please let me know. But it was scary. It really was. It was in my backyard when I lived in Texas. But yeah, so candy stripe light. I mean, there's something about that that's just really creepy. And then it's coming towards him through the shadow of the evening sun. I wonder if that's a really beautiful way of saying the moon. I think so. I think seeing a spider kind of coming out of the moonlight is just extra creepy. That visual. And then stealing past the windows of the blissfully dead, looking for the victim shivering in bed. So, yeah, so this spider creature is lurking around in the. You can see him in the moonlight, and he's looking through windows at the dead that maybe those are past victims, but he's looking for his fresh one, his fresh one that hasn't been, killed yet. He likes his fresh meat, and and so there he is. He finds him, and suddenly he's in his room, and he sees him through the corner of his eyes, and there's nothing he can do. He realizes that, he's going to be eaten tonight for dinner by the Spider-Man. Now, the Spider-Man might be able to paralyze his victims, I'm thinking, they have their venom, which would keep you from moving. But I think that Robert Smith's Spider-Man paralyzes you just with sheer fear alone, because let's get into the next verse. Um, Quietly he laughs, and shaking his head, creeps closer now, closer to the foot of the bed, and softer than shadow and quicker than flies. His arms are all around me, and his tongue in my eyes. Be still, be calm, be quiet now, my precious boy. Don't struggle like that, or I will only love you more. For it's much too late to get away or turn on the light. The Spider-Man is having you for dinner tonight. So, as I was saying before, according to his lyrics, I think the Spider-Man probably could paralyze you with his venom, but he likes his victims to struggle and try to get away. It makes him love his little snack more, uh, if he knows you're frightened and trying to get away, and he tells his little victim, "Don't struggle like that, or I will only love you more," which makes it a little bit more horrifying, because this is a predator that gets enjoyment out of playing with his food. So the bridge of the song is, and I feel like I'm being eaten by 1,000,000,000 shivering furry holes. And I know that in the morning I will wake up in the shivering cold, and the Spider-Man is always hungry. So here he's talking about being slowly eaten alive by the Spider-Man. And the interesting thing is, he says, I will know that in the morning I will wake up in the shivering cold, and the Spider-Man is always hungry. So one has to wonder that this isn't just like a fairy tale or a scary story, that maybe this is maybe like an allegory to real life in some manner, because I feel like he's saying he's going to wake up and kind of re-experience this all again. So he wasn't really eaten for dinner that night, but maybe this is just something in his life that plagues him daily, and possibly even more when the nighttime comes, which leads others to believe, or what I have heard, looking at different interpretations, it could be that um, that the surface story is a horrible bedtime story, but the underlying tale might be one's own, or the terrifying things in one's own life, which could be, your addictions that you deal with. Uh, some even mentioned maybe the sexual predator that comes at night, like if you think about like child molestation or something like that. When you're lying in bed at night, that's when they come and get you. Um, or it might even have to do with some mental depression issues, that this kind of terror and anxiety can come at you almost any 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 time of any day, and it's just something that you live with on a daily basis. And again, also with addiction, I think that addiction also plagues you and haunts and terrorizes you on a daily basis, and it's something that you have to confront every single day. So whichever way it's meant, or maybe it's meant to be anyway, just a general kind of, hey, this is for the dark things that terrorize you at night. Whatever that dark thing in your life is, and you can apply it to your own situation. This is, so the song ends with, "Come into my parlor," said the spider to the fly. "I have a little something here." So once he wakes up in the morning, the Spider-Man says to him to, come here, I got something for you. So again, what is that something? I think you can put in whatever suits you in your life. What is your deepest fear personified, and it's always right there, ready to be confronted. Simplified storytelling is, I think, really wonderful, and then you can kind of personalize it, and everybody who hears it can, based on their own experiences, reflects back what they think the song's meaning is. And so that way it kind of has an effect on everybody. It's not too specific, and one can apply it, or kind of takes ownership of the meaning in their own life. But I do think that's a really great feature of it, is that you have the surface tale and then the underlying affliction that is occurring in either the writer's life, or maybe because it's so open that the listener can insert themselves into the story and kind of have it be very, very personal to them, and that affects them on a deeper level. So, as always, thank you for listening to Experiments in Poetry. This was episode 16. If you have any songs that you would like me to cover or any poems, you can comment below, or you can reach me at wendy@experimentsinpoetry.com. To keep getting my content, then please hit the subscribe button so that way you can be notified when a new review or an original poem by me is released.